Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's me, Mosey, in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Them good watching trophies. Go,
What's up, y'all? This is John, Mike, and Kaleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. And as always, on Sunday nights, we're live on Millions and as a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Tonight, obviously, we're going over all the conference title games and the playoff seeding. But before we get to that, how have y'all been? What are you drinking?
You would think oh no, okay. All right. Since we both started talking at the same time, I'll just go. Been in a pretty pleasant mood that I didn't expect to be in a month ago. But
No.
other than the football stuff, it's been cold
Yeah.
over here. But I've been good. I'm drinking a nice cold glass of milk. Just like my
Hey,
hero
Kurt Angle. I see you.
Because we do a little Advent tradition on Sundays, and we make cookies and have some milk. And I didn't finish mine before we got on the pod,
Sweet.
so milk it is.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm doing well. I mean, if you caught at the very beginning of the stream, it looks like Caleb and I have been drinking, but I'm not either. I just have a bottle of water. Yeah, man, great weekend. My son won a robotics, like a big, like several county-wide robotics competition, so that was cool.
Let's go.
And then my other son, I went to a middle school football camp for Country Day, whose head coach actually grew up down the street from me. Albeit he's like 10 years older than I am, but still similar backgrounds. It's just kind of wild that he ended up down here too. But how about you?
Good. With what happened last night and not even the Ghost Pirates losing in overtime because the goalie decided to try to block a shot while he was 4 feet out of the net could ruin my day today.
How many overtime games of various sports have you been to or seen recently?
Well, there was like 4 last weekend.
Yeah.
There was 1 this weekend in football, and then the hockey game today. So, too many.
Yeah.
So Savannah was down 3-2 to Orlando, which is just gross. And they scored a goal with 2 minutes left to tie the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had another 12 shots on goal in the final 2 minutes of the game. Didn't get any of them in. So went to overtime and made it. In the ECHL, I'm not sure about the NHL. In the ECHL, it's 7 minutes of 3-on-3 for overtime.
Sweet. I don't know.
Made it to 7 seconds until the shootout. And Savannah's goalie was just like, hey, this guy is coming towards me. The only player of mine that's anywhere close is like 5 feet behind him. 5 feet? That sounds good. I'm going to get 5 feet out of the net and try to block this shot. It didn't work.
Okay.
That is the most Savannah Ghost Pirates way to lose a game I've ever heard. In fairness.
My brother-in-law was at the game with us, his first Savannah game, and I was like, well, you got the full Savannah experience tonight. They were great in 2 periods, sucked in 1, and that 1 was enough to lose them the game. Was
there a big brawl or no?
No.
Okay, so not the full experience.
Not the full experience.
Yeah, so Savannah, since they switched to the Florida Panthers as the affiliate, they don't really have any just big enforcers on the team anymore.
Oh.
And the refs are also stopping a lot of fights this year before they get started. Like, guys will drop gloves and skate to each other, and then all 3 refs just get in the middle and starfish.
Goodness. You got to think like 2/3 of the audience is just there for a crowd, or 2/3 of the crowd is just there for a fight. I mean, right?
Yeah, it is disappointing. But I will say the player on Savannah's team that tries to fight the most is the smallest guy. He's also the captain. And he tried to fight tonight and got 1 hit in, and then the ref stopped it. But Orlando kept intentionally sliding into our goalie when they would get on our end and like knock him down. So Drevich, the captain, just grabbed the dude by the collar and hit him once, and the refs got in the way.
Gotcha. Well,
They didn't,
deserved. Should have
they
gone up
didn't mess
longer.
with our goalie anymore.
Yeah.
Fair, you know.
Sometimes that's how you got to do it.
All right. While we're talking about cold and ice, Mountain West game in Boise. I will say Boise trounced UNLV. One of my predictions in this game was close. One was not. I did hedge my bets a little bit on this one. And to just be completely honest with everybody, I knew most of our picks were going to be the same, but we were all leaning Boise. So I was like, I'm going to talk myself into UNLV to have something different. Should not have. But Ashton Genty, I said it wouldn't shock me if he had 225 yards in this game. He had 209. So
close.
Yeah, I was much closer than a UNLV win. And the rebellious Barry Odoms could not come close to stopping the run game in this one. Boise had a total combined 6.2 yards per carry. That's
a lot.
Far from their season average.
Yeah.
Including they only allowed 3.1 the first time these teams played. They doubled it going into this one. And Mike, you just added in here. Sounds like Barry Odom is potentially going to Purdue.
Yeah, that they're zoning in or honing in on him as their guy. I guess because Scott Frost is going to UCF. So
I'm sure that will go about as well as their last coach did.
Yeah.
UCF or Purdue?
Purdue.
Oh, I was thinking that could go for either.
Yeah. It genuinely could. Scott Frost might lead them to another national championship.
All right, that is a big rabbit hole, and we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
All right, so one thing that I didn't look into for this game was Maddox Madsen's efficiency when passing the football. Didn't even think about it. On the season, he has 22 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions. And just to kind of emphasize that interception number, the last interception he threw before, well, he didn't even throw one this weekend. The most recent interception he's thrown was November 9th against Nevada. Before that, it was September 28th.
Oh, man.
Yep.
How do we get him in Georgia?
He didn't even throw an interception to Oregon.
Wild.
Yeah. His season total QBR is 143.7. There's a reason that he started over the former Lincoln Riley quarterback, Malachi Nelson. He is legit.
Yeah, and you know that I bet I want to say this the right way because I don't want to disrespect him by saying that teams probably aren't playing the pass because Gene T is so good, but teams probably, with Gene T being the guy who's probably going to break Barry Sanders' single season rushing record at this point, that's probably what a lot of team defenses are focusing on. And this guy is good enough to take advantage of that and make you pay for it. Then again, that's not a slight at the quarterback or trying to make excuses for it. He's obviously very, very good and very efficient. But yeah, as I was mentioning, Gene T has a very good chance at actually breaking the Sanders single season rushing record with an asterisk, of course, because if he does it in their next game, he will have played 2 extra games to get there. But still, the only problem, though, and we'll talk more about these scenarios later, but he better break the record in their quarterfinal matchup. Because if he gets like 70 yards and they still win the game, he ain't getting another 60 against them Dogs.
Yeah, so he is the current pace that Genty's on. He will break the Barry Sanders record by 41 yards in their next game.
41 yards. Okay, I mathed wrong then. I thought he still needed like 130.
And this is from sportingnews.com. They do apparently all season they have updated the Ashton Genty rushing record tracker that tells you how many yards he needs.
That's what I looked at, and they said they had updated it through UNLV, but maybe that was a lie at the time, and maybe you've got the more recent one. So, okay. Well, in that case, yeah, he probably gets it in the quarterfinal. Don't even need to worry about
it. Y'all ready to move on to Big 12?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking about quarterfinal. That's as far as they're getting. Well, the team picked to finish last in the Big 12 by the media won the conference. Similarly to other underestimated teams, they're undefeated when healthy.
Wild.
Specifically, South Carolina is who I was referencing there.
Yeah.
Their only loss this year is without their starting quarterback. That Arizona State's only loss.
Haven't they lost 2?
Do what?
Yeah, they were
Haven't
10-2. Yeah.
In the
But you're saying they both came with an unhealthy quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that.
I'm just quoting their coach there.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
Cam Scadaboo just had an absolutely insane day. 16 carries for 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, 10.6 yards per carry. He also added 2 receptions for 28 yards and another touchdown.
Okay, just to fact check the coach real quick. When they lost to Texas Tech, Leavitt was healthy, but he was out for most of the Cincinnati game. Okay,
so their coach was wrong.
Yeah, but it happens. And you got things to worry about other than how your own team did in its own games.
Yeah, fair. Scadaboo by himself had 43 more rushing yards than the entire Iowa State team.
That's tough.
Yeah. So on the Iowa State side of things, Rocco Beck earned nothing but respect for this game. I know we all say no moral victories. That has to have a caveat.
Yeah.
I really believe that because Iowa State got their first 10-win season ever.
Huge.
Yeah, the last Power Core 4 team that has not gotten 10 wins is Vandy now. And that could change next year, depending on if Diego gets another year of eligibility.
And Rocco Beck played phenomenally all season long. Went into the locker room when they were already down 35 to like 7-10, something like that. Late in the game, with going through concussion protocol, cleared protocol, but got back in the game, scored another touchdown.
Yeah, I know. Again, we do say no moral victories for Georgia because we've won the big one. Like we don't accept that. If your team is used to going 4-8 every year and got their first 10-win season ever, got to the conference championship game, had a legitimate chance to make the playoff, take your moral victory, guys.
Yeah, I mean, and we're not even talking about Indiana really tonight, but I think the same thing about Indiana, just getting to the playoff. Like you guys,
huge accomplishment.
Yeah, for when game day was at Indiana, they had a whole parade for when Lee Corso got that team to a bowl game for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how much winning means to them because they don't do it often.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know we're talking about the Big 12, but like Indiana, you won this season.
Mm-hmm.
Last note I have on this is how mad are Auburn fans that Kenny Dillingham was their offensive coordinator with Bo Nix in 2019. And the Gus bus was not allowing anyone else to drive the offense other than Gus. And I mean,
that's why he's gone. That's why he's not there anymore.
Auburn fans should be mad.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, like, we made the joke, they're not making it past the quarterfinal. Texas and Clemson better watch out and bring their A game to that game. Like, they probably win whichever team advances to that point, probably Texas, let's be real. But I don't think Kenny Dillingham plans on making their path easy.
No, I don't care what the spread is, unless it's half a point. Probably take Arizona State plus the points.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page there. Yeah.
Man, I don't even know what to say about the Big Ten. I really like this game left me with more questions than answers, and this was a conference title game.
Yeah.
And like I honestly feel like the breakdown needs to be a conversation. Because is Penn State good or is Oregon not the number one team and just had an easy schedule?
So, to me, this game was a microcosm for the season. That Oregon looks like world beaters when they're on, and then they aren't on consistently. And then Penn State can have their opponents do everything possible to hand them the game, and then still lose if there's a single-digit number next to the team's name on the graphic.
Mm-hmm.
that's just who these teams are. It's who they've been all year. And to me, this game is more proof that we do not have one dominant team at all this season, which is a great time for a 12-team playoff, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Mike, as our resident Big Ten stan, what is your opinion?
I do think that Drew Aller played out of his mind. I didn't think he had that in him.
He got back in his mind on their last offensive play.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, for real though, like Penn State, not Penn State. I'm sorry, Oregon. Besides Ohio State, and I guess they played Boise too. Never mind. I'm talking myself into. They actually played a decent schedule. Never mind.
They had two legit games, and Boise played them better than Ohio State did.
Facts.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. When Oregon got their just desserts for that, they have the hardest path through the playoff. But we'll get to that later. But yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what to make of it either.
So, I mean, we've seen through most of the season that Penn State struggles against most defenses. They were scoring on average in the teens and 20s more than they got to the 30s. They still can't score. They can't move the ball consistently. And on the Oregon side of it, we saw them go to overtime with Boise and not move the ball well for honestly a significant part of the season, including against some less than good teams. I mean, their first game of the season against Idaho was a thriller. And, I mean, both of these teams allowing a lot of points and Penn State having 2 turnovers tells me that both of their rankings were inflated by a college football playoff committee that I did the research on. 1/3 of them are Big Ten adjacent. 1/3 of the committee.
Now, I will say, I do think Oregon deserves the 1 spot just because no one else went undefeated. You can only play the games you have. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Penn State really should, even now, even after the fact, when we have these rankings, should have been a lot lower than they were.
And so going through the committee and the committee's history today, I believe there were 2 people Big Ten adjacent. Both of them played or worked for Baylor. Kind of odd, both of them around Baylor. Yeah. 4 of them from our MAC adjacent.
That's interesting.
And 2 were SEC adjacent. The rest were Big Ten.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, just
kind of shocked that the MAC didn't have a single ranked team at the end of the year then, but then again they all got drilled in non-conference play and then cannibalized themselves.
If Miami, Ohio won this weekend, they probably do end up in the top 25, but getting their teeth kicked in by the Ohio Bobcats probably screwed them up.
An Ohio team.
Ohio University.
Let's say the Ohio University, the only team in Ohio to win a conference championship. Or playing one, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Crazy.
Technically, Miami, Ohio was also a team from Ohio that played in the conference championship.
I think
we had 2 Ohio teams playing a conference title game this weekend. Neither were Ohio State.
Yes.
I think the MAC had put out something right before the game about, all the Ohio State fans that were salty about that. It's like, come watch your alma mater playing Detroit for a conference title instead of cheering on Ohio State. Very good.
Elite.
That's gold. I love it.
Talking about cold and crazy, ACC title game.
Oh, man.
Yeah, right.
It was cold in Charlotte, but it was also insane. And question for you guys, am I crazy?
I went to bed at halftime.
Oh.
Ouch.
Oh. So you may not be able to answer this question for me.
I went to bed because this one and the Big Ten game were not close.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, good night.
Yeah.
And they both got closer.
So am I crazy for thinking that SMU was the better team in that game?
No, not at all. I think they were shook to start the game. I think they put too much pressure on themselves to get started. And then once they realized, hey, we're actually a good team in Clemson, as Clemson of 2024, they played a lot better the last bit, but special teams last bit there didn't work out too well for them. But I do think SMU is a better team of the two.
Yeah, I think, but there is value in having been there before. I think
Yep.
you saw that with another game we're going to talk about too. Having been there, Clemson's been there a million times. Dabo's been there a million times. I think that helped them a lot in this game. But I'm glad. It seems like the committee thought the same thing, that SMU probably had the better team, which surprised me.
I think Clemson's won like 10 of the 20 ACC championship games or something crazy like that. Or 9, I think 9. He's been there 10 times, something along those lines. But might have to name it after Dabo.
Yeah, and I do want to get to the SMU playoff ranking thing in a bit because I think we all have a lot to say on that, and especially where this game factors into that. But just some stats to back up how I don't believe I'm crazy for thinking SMU was a better team. Clemson's average length of scoring drive was 24.25 yards.
Oh.
SMU had 2 turnovers as soon as they got the ball back. Kind of hurts. SMU, on the other hand, average length of scoring drive of 61.8 yards. Only one of their scoring drives was less than 70 yards.
Sheesh.
Wow.
The turnovers. They had a strip sack on the second play of the game and pick on their 4th drive of the game.
Yeah. Now I will say, like, turnovers are a result of the offense's fault and the defense playing well. So I don't know if you can take that and say, well, that we can throw this away because of turnovers, because that is kind of on the team.
No, I agree with that. My thing, the point of what I was saying is, Clemson was not able to move the ball unless they got it on SMU's side of the field.
So strictly talking about their offense,
yeah,
they didn't go up a bunch because the offense was going crazy.
Exactly, it was a 24-7 lead because they got turnovers, and then SMU had a punt just on the other side of the 50. Clemson moved the ball 20 yards, kicked a field goal. Like, that is how they got to 21 points.
Yeah.
SMU only allowed Cade Klubnik to complete 51.2% of his passes. SMU allowed a total of 64 rushing yards to this Clemson team. SMU's Kevin Jennings completed
Kelvin
62.
Jennings too.
Do what?
It's Kelvin Jennings, I think.
Kelvin.
Yeah.
I was hungover this morning when I wrote this. My bad.
That's okay.
Completed 62% of his passes, and as a team, they had 154 rushing yards.
I apologize, John. I just looked it up. It is Kevin, in fact. I don't know where I got Kelvin from. It is
Kevin.
Thought he had a cooler name. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
154 rushing yards to 64. The adjustments made at halftime by the Mustangs changed the entire tone of this game. And I really think that's what makes me believe that they are the better team. Just less prepared in the first half, and that was enough to make a difference. Last note I have on this game was the ACC's Georgia at Alabama. One team came out, turned the ball over, let the other team get up, and then came storming back, and it just wasn't enough.
I thought you were going to say, like you meant as far as like 2021, where Georgia threw the SEC championship so Bama could get in the playoff.
Yeah, that's what happened, right? He
Yeah.
felt so bad for Nick Saban not being able to win a natty that year that he just handed him the SEC title. That's what I'm going with.
I'm
talking about 21, yeah.
Yeah.
In 2021, my conspiracy theory is the 12-team playoff had not been approved yet. Greg Sankey made a deal with Saban and Kirby and said Saban is going to win the SEC title to get 2 teams into the playoff to force the committee to go to 12.
Yeah, I mean,
and Kirby's going to win the title.
Hey, it worked.
It did.
You cannot convince me otherwise because it was, weeks after the 2021 title game, they announced the 12-team playoff?
Yeah.
And the SEC getting 2 teams in again forced their hand?
Yeah, at the very least, that was why.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Sankey was the one pushing for 12 teams the most.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
And now this time the committee really didn't want to put 4 SEC teams in.
Right.
No.
Not that I'm complaining.
No. But speaking of Greg Sankey and being angry, so we got, you guys stepped it up this week. We have 2 voicemails for calling the Dogs.
Let's go. They better both say horns down.
Oh, they do.
If you have children in the car that are not used to profanity, go ahead and just skip a minute or so.
Or let them hear it. They need to grow up sometime.
Fair. But, we are trying to be a little bit more family friendly on the show here recently, if y'all haven't noticed. And
this isn't going to be.
Absolutely not. Nope. It's a lot. But for the SEC champion calling the Dogs, here we go.
Let's go.
Go Dawgs! Hell yeah! I didn't expect it. I thought we were done. I thought the season was over 4 or 5 times. But we learned a couple things tonight. That Texas barbecue sucks ass. It really does. All they do is make big ass steaks. They burn them. Fuck them. And then we learned that Georgia Tech, the North Avenue, a lot tougher than those sissy-ass Austin downtown boys. Fuck yes. Go Dawgs!
So, I'm going to start this off by saying nobody gave Georgia a shot. Everyone thought we were going 7-5. Everybody on College Game Day picked Texas again, except for Pat McAfee. But as we all know, from here on out, them Dogs is fucking hell. And by my scientific conclusion of watching this game, I think that Carson Beck fucked Arian Smith's girlfriend. Just because if we watch this game, he didn't drop a single pass from Gunnar Stockton, recovered a fumble. So, if y'all agree with me, let me know, but I'm pretty sure that Arian Smith was like, no, fuck this dude, I'm dropping every pass he throws to me because he fucked my girlfriend. That's all I gotta say. Go Dogs, them Dogs is hell, and natty, here we come.
Neither voicemail said horns down.
I'm disappointed in you guys.
But I'm proud.
Okay, I'll have to listen to them. I couldn't hear them, obviously.
Yeah.
I will say the first voicemail was, friend of the program and wrestling commentator Josh Deal.
Let's go.
Shout
out Classic City Wrestling.
Yes, sir.
Out. He said Texas barbecue sucks.
Okay, that's wrong. I feel like we've had this before.
Solid disagreement.
But their football sure does.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Brisket is the king of barbecue, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
Just saying. But this game was absolutely nuts. Georgia's offense was completely unable to move the ball in the first half. And what I mean by that, Georgia's average length of drive in the first half was 18 yards.
That's not good.
That's not good.
And the one field goal drive that was 49 yards greatly increased the average. It was going to be below 10.
Yeah. That's bad.
Yeah. And I will say...
Definitely not a first half you have to go back and watch. Just start at a halftime.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say we're going to talk a lot about the offense just because of the...
What happened?
Yeah. But the defense deserves 90% of the credit in this game, and that's why Dalen Everett got the MVP of the SEC championship last night.
Hands down. Horns down, you could say.
Horns down. Yeah, I would say. Because with an offense that was completely unable to move the ball in the first half, the defense got turnovers, made stops. They were bending, but never really came close to breaking. Once, Texas got to Georgia's side of the field on every drive in the first half.
Yeah.
Texas missed a field goal, and they never got inside of the 30. A hard cinder block wall set up at the 30-yard line. You can get here, you ain't going further.
Yeah, love it.
Dan Jackson had remember that hit that he had?
Oh, it was a monster hit.
God.
Honestly, I was expecting the refs to call targeting.
I was too.
Sure.
The way that they
was so clean.
That was clean.
Yeah.
Just like number 11's clock. Clean as hell.
Yeah.
Then at the end of the first half, Carson gets hurt. And after the last few weeks of the season, as much as we have been not necessarily believers in Carson Beck. I'm sure we all had the exact same thought. We thought it was getting to a point of a lost cause.
I thought at the very least, like even if what we had been saying were 100% true and Gunnar Stockton was 100% going to be better, that Kirby was going to go soft on the play calling to protect him, and that so it was going to be a lost cause.
And my thing is, as much as we talked last week about Texas having a very soft schedule, their defense is still very good.
Yep.
They have had a soft schedule, but I would venture to say it's probably still the best defense that Georgia's played all season.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Without a doubt.
Top to bottom, I still think Ole Miss has a better defensive line. But if you're talking all three levels of the defense, Texas is clearly the best defense Georgia's played all year.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, okay, Carson's hurt, so we're throwing in a guy who's thrown 15 passes all season and has only played in garbage time to win the SEC championship game against the best defense Georgia's played all season.
Yeah.
All right. Don't have a choice. Let's go.
You're in there.
It truly is the hair of the dog there. I think I was optimistic at this point. I was pessimistic going into the game, turned into an optimist even when this happened. Backup quarterback coming in, hair of the dog, and it ended up working. But I do want to say other thing. When Carson got hurt on that play, and we were still waiting as of Sunday night at 8:30 about what his diagnosis or whatever is at this point. That's pretty much the exact same thing happened at the end of regulation against Tech, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Scary. The risk reward for that, especially when he's holding on to the ball too long, trying to hopefully get something to develop or whatever. It's not great.
No, I would agree with that, and I think it's because this season Peyton Woodring hasn't been entirely accurate once you cross that 50-yard mark. I'd still rather miss a field goal as time expires than what happened.
Yeah.
And, to be fair, none of us are upset that Gunnar came in the game because of the way he played.
Right.
But I think there were two ways it goes at that point. It is either the whole team, including Gunnar, steps up, or
we fold.
We fold.
Yeah.
And it's not honestly, a lot of games, to put this into quantifiable terms, right? It's like a 20-sided die or dice, whatever you say. You roll it and we got a 15 today. We're going to play pretty well and still make some mistakes. Mm-hmm. When you're putting in a guy that has played very little football against legit competition, it is a coin flip. It's either going well or going terribly. And the coin's not landing on its side. It went well. It went extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
Gunnar Stockton comes in, goes 12 of 16 for 71 yards. He did have an interception.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad, but at the same time, for that to be the only mistake he made
against the best defense that we faced all year,
and with Georgia's defense playing the way it did,
it was fine.
Yeah.
I saw that. That was the equivalent to me. It wasn't exactly an arm punt, and it was a really crucial point of the game.
Yeah.
To me, I looked at it, I was like, okay, arm punt, defense will step up. And they did.
Yeah. I will say the most efficient passer on the day was actually Drew Bobo. Little touch pass.
Let's go.
On the fake punt.
The jet touch pass. Jeez.
Again,
in real life.
Hair of the dog again. Get burned by a bad fake punt a couple years ago, and then try something better.
Oh yeah.
You know what?
Well,
Kirby Smart remembers.
This time they didn't put Jaden Rashada as a blocker.
Yeah, which would have made it the most obvious thing in the world. They instead let Drew Bobo get out there and shuffle pass it out to, was it Arian?
Yeah, it was Arian, yeah. Got that one. Caught that one.
Sure did.
Would have been concerned if he didn't.
And Gunnar might be the Arian whisperer. I don't think Arian dropped a ball that Gunnar threw him.
Yeah. I think Wes had that line in the voicemail, right?
He said, according to his scientific studies, something went down between Carson and Arian, and I'm sure you both know where that went.
Yes,
probably involved a Snapchat.
Yep.
Oh well, I mean, if it's Carson, absolutely, that given.
Yeah, and one thing, so I will say, all season, I would say about half the time Georgia punts, they've put a wide receiver in motion before the punt.
Yeah.
All season, when we've been at games, I've told Kelsey, they do this 50% of the time to set something up.
Yeah.
They're setting it up for when they need it. It may never account for anything, may never amount for anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if they need it, it's there because they
boy,
haven't done it yet.
And boy, did they do it.
I think that's the same reason the trend of starting quarterbacks holding kicks has taken off ever since Tua was doing it.
Yeah. Well, they already did that once with Stetson in 22. I think we faked a field goal with him. Just had him take it and take off, and it makes sense. If you're gonna fake it, get your best quarterback out there who can either run or throw the ball. And,
Yep.
Yeah. And did they say anything about Brett Thorson? I know he obviously left on a cart.
So, I haven't seen anything. Let me look it up.
All right, because after the game, I looked it up and didn't hear anything there. I didn't even see an article written about it, except Fox News said a key piece of Georgia special teams gets hurt in the SEC championship, and I was like, "You're not wrong, but why is Fox News the only outlet writing this?"
Right.
Fair amount.
The only articles I'm seeing are the ones written at the time.
Right.
Still, so.
Well, I mean, the answer to that is just don't punt.
Yeah.
No more punting. Just don't.
Don't get into this situation where you need to. Yeah.
Except
I think the first time Ham was trotted out there to punt was when they did the fake.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which was honestly also just masterful.
Right.
But I will say, don't do like the Caleb Williams version of don't punt. Like, don't say that and then only punt.
Yeah.
That would be a bad call.
Right.
Okay, as of early this afternoon, just like Beck, Thorson had an MRI Sunday morning, and they're still awaiting the results. That's from Rivals as of this afternoon.
I will say, on the injury side of things, I think I have two trains of thought, and they're kind of on the same track. So Kirby didn't want to release any information about these injuries because of what happened with Jordan Travis last year. I understand it's an automatic bid, but you cannot convince me the seeding for teams Georgia would play.
Oh, they would have been the 4.
Going to be the same.
Yeah, they would have been the 4.
And I think with Carson, the initial rumor that came out, and I don't even know where I saw this, but somebody said they got some information from the coaches that he tore his UCL and he's going to have Tommy John surgery. Mechanically,
from what I understand, that's the worry, but they still haven't gotten official results. But again, they may just be keeping close to the vest, and that might be accurate.
And I think I think what probably happened is with Carson, it's bad news. So they already have the results. They're going for a second opinion.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Kind of what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But just mechanically, the way the top of his arm was going forwards as the time his forearm was going backwards. That's why pitchers have to get Tommy John surgery, because that's exactly how that injury happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And judging by the way that he was dead armed for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Also makes sense.
He did his best Matt Stafford impression when he was mic'd up in his rookie year when he broke his collarbone or whatever. Just, I'll still throw it regardless. I mean, well, he didn't throw it, he just handed it off, but
but still. Yeah.
And I
got a comment on that later too. But
I was about to say, I know Caleb has some comments on that, but when he makes those, I will go back and say something, because huge moment in the game, especially when a lot of people were questioning his leadership. But
yeah,
the running game was the story of this one for the offense for the Dawgs, though. Total of 141 yards, 2 total touchdowns. ETN, 16 carries, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also,
welcome back, Trev.
5 receptions, 28 yards. And Kirby, after the game, said that Trevor Etienne was not even close to being healthy.
Yeah.
But during the week, he came up and said, "Coach, I'm playing on Saturday. I came here to play in this game and win this game. You're not keeping me out."
And he did it. My man.
He sure as shit did.
Mm.
On the audio, if you're listening, that was me clapping.
Nate Frazier, 6 for 47, 1 reception for 9 yards. Cash Jones, 2 carries for 8 yards.
Who?
Cash Jones.
Who?
Cash Jones.
And I get it was 2 for 8, but one of those that he got was 100% crucial. The way he just kept driving forward. So bravo, Cash Jones.
And as a smaller guy, his ability to run through some of these tackles, or at least get forward momentum enough to not get stopped, is pretty insane.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And then the rush defense was good too. They gave up 60 yards. Oh,
Oops.
wait. Never mind. That's the game in October and yesterday combined. They gave up 31 yards on the ground from a Texas defense. Like I was saying earlier, I meant to go back and add this. They were averaging, 200-ish yards per game?
Over 200 yards the last 3 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
they ran through A&M.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers had 100 yards passing that day because he didn't need it.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I had people texting me like, why aren't we stopping these routes over the middle? I'm like, guys, we stop the run game, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And then boy did we.
And I will say, as far as Texas offense goes, because I know we're not going to talk a ton about all of that because we got a lot we're getting to, but Sark drew up a beautiful scheme in the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Because
slants killed us, man.
So it was not necessarily the slants. They did a lot. Texas was running mostly stop routes on the outside because they knew Georgia's defensive backs were playing man coverage, and it was going to be one guy taking off trying to keep up with you, and then you stop and you got 10 yards of separation. Beautiful scheme. It really was. And then Georgia switched to zone coverage in the second half, and most of those disappeared.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Just
you had one break, one botched coverage or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the rest of the half was rock solid.
That's kind of what adjustments you get when you have Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, and T-Rob, 3 of the best defensive back coaches. And
Will Muschamp was there, by the way.
He was.
Excellent to have him back on the field.
You know who else was on the field?
Matthew McConaughey?
Todd Monken.
Let's go.
Yeah, he was there.
He was hanging out with Bobo pregame, and there's pictures of him just sitting leaned up against the wall during the entire game.
Love it.
I wonder if he got on one of the phones to help Bobo out at some point.
That's my headcanon, at least. I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I think you have a note about Bobo here, speaking of which at the
So last 2 games Georgia played, they both went to overtime.
Yeah.
The last 2 plays of the last 2 games, identical. They were different formation as far as the tight ends and wide receivers go, but if you watch those 2 plays side by side, the line blocking, the exact same. The gap, exactly the same. The spot on the field, exactly the same. And as soon as the ball was snapped, the tight end and wide receiver running to the gap and blocking, exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Just different pre-snap formations.
Yep.
And, that tells me Bobo is not a bad offensive coordinator.
No.
We've had most drops in college football this season. That's a huge factor in why Georgia's offense kind of sucked at parts of this year. But at the same time, you had multiple huge, significant offensive line injuries simultaneously. You had 2 running backs for most of the season.
Yeah.
And they did what they needed to do to win. They ended up winning the SEC because of it. Now the team being healthier than they've been all season until the Carson injury, you see what Bobo is capable of, especially in that second half. And for it to be 2 identical plays that worked exactly the same and worked 4 touchdowns in overtime to win the game, you have to respect the hell out of it.
Guys, can we get a health check on the why does Bobo just call runs up the middle? They never work crowd. Can we get a health check on them after, again, 2 weeks in a row
of running
the old Mike
working.
Bobo special gets it done. Man, and I do want to focus on that run too for just a minute because watching it back, I watched some of the highlights today. The Texas defense was playing really soft for the first 3 yards of that 4-yard run. And I think they were thinking, and this is what I was thinking watching the game here, They're thinking the healthy QB is out for this play. They're putting the guy with the bum arm in for a play, so we know they're going to hand it off up the middle. All they're trying to do is protect the ball, get the healthy quarterback back out there, and then we'll actually play some football. I think that was the plan in all likelihood. But again, credit to Carson Beck, like you mentioned, went in the huddle for that play, took leadership, allegedly said, "Let's go get this bitch." And then Trevor Etienne and his O-line went out and got it. And now some people are going to say Carson Beck actually said, "Let's get this boy." And to that, I say, I like my version better.
He had socks on, though.
There's no way he said boy.
Yeah. He had socks on.
So, we at times this season have questioned Carson Beck's leadership, especially after mistakes he makes, especially after a drop pass. He'll go and sit on the sideline and, not really talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And outside in, it appeared that, he was not necessarily much of a leader. You see it when he's running out there for that last play. He is not moving his right arm.
Mm-hmm.
You go back and watch that play, he pretty much caught that snap one-handed.
Yeah.
After the game, celebrating with the adrenaline of just winning the SEC championship, beating Texas for the second time, he's still hurting so much he's only able to raise one arm in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And for a guy that a lot of us, I think, after that injury and how significant it was, thought he was probably mailing it into either Miami or the NFL, for him to come back in and be the guy that helps win that game after Gunner gets targeted and it got reversed. I still don't understand that call.
I don't understand it either. If Dan Jackson got targeting against Texas the first time, this is basically the same hit, except worse.
Yeah.
And that's an argument I made at the party we were at last night, and it whatever. But
yeah,
Carson proved that he may not be a vocal leader. He may not be the guy on the sideline that's going to rah-rah everybody. But what he was willing to do at the end of that game, which in all likelihood is a very significant injury. We may never see Carson Beck play another game for the University of Georgia again.
Mm-hmm.
He went out and was the guy in charge of the play that won the SEC title.
Yeah.
And he got leader.
Yeah, he got them absolutely fired up. You definitely can't say Carson Beck is soft after that.
No.
One guy you can say is soft is Sark at this point.
Oh my gosh.
Did you see his halftime interview?
Pathetic.
Like, I knew the culture at Texas was soft because they're trying to get the whole horns down thing banned. Like we know Texas fans are soft from having interacted with them. But I thought Sark at least had some cojones on him. But for him to run into the halftime tunnel, up by 3, by the way, and whine about the officiating told me everything I needed to know. That was the moment I knew Georgia would win. I was still nervous, but I knew at that moment Georgia was going to win this game. It's like the Florida State thing. When you make excuses and you have losers mentality, you will lose the game, period. And worth noting as well, just a little side note, this was officially Georgia's last game of the year 2024. Sugar Bowl will be New Year's Day.
Bittersweet, almost.
Yeah.
Especially after
genuinely.
they won that game last night. The ups and downs, the most roller coaster season that Georgia's had in a very long time.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Could you imagine going back to us on this podcast on November 10th and saying, guys, we're going to win the SEC and be the second seed in the playoff. It's all good.
I would not have believed myself.
Same.
Well, surely Ole Miss when it loses to Florida.
Right? Right. Surely Alabama won't throw it away by getting blown out by some 6-6 team.
Right.
By a team that needed to beat you to get bowl eligible.
Yeah.
And then shit the bed against LSU the following week. But yeah.
That's true.
Nuts. All right, we're going to get into some awards here. We're starting off offense. Who wants it?
I'll take it because I sort of made the decision not to put Gunnar Stockton here. We got him later, don't worry. But it's got to be Trevor Etienne, right? Almost 100 yards rushing. He carried the team on his back in the second half. Had that big 45-yard run. Both of the touchdowns Georgia scored on the day. Just powered his way in on the game winner. It's got to go to Trevor Etienne. He took a lot of leadership in this game too, and it showed.
Defense, Dalen fucking Everett.
Positive this time. I don't think we even mentioned him earlier.
We did.
No.
Defensive.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
No,
we did.
Sark must have said something about his mama's cooking on a recruiting visit back in the day or something, because Dalen Everett hates Texas.
He does.
More than anything.
You just got to envision just that Longhorn logo on every other helmet going forward, and we're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 2 picks that he had in this game were huge. That first one, when he was defending Isaiah Bond, was
Just
weird.
made me smile after Isaiah Bond allegedly catching a ball cost us last year.
Right. Yeah.
And that interception was just all heads up.
Yes, absolutely. And Bond quit on that ball too after he got tipped, but
he quits on a lot of things.
That transferred to Texas for the NIL money quit.
Yeah, right.
Wild.
No.
And then that second interception, shout out me for that because I called that.
Yes, he did. Literally the words, watch Dalen Everett get an interception here.
And then I promise you I wasn't that far ahead. I wasn't far ahead. I was just wishful thinking. Manifested it into an existence. But yeah, Dalen Everett, defensive MVP, just like everyone thought going into the game.
Yeah. And, while we're talking about defense, we do have another honorable mention that's listed here. But our guy, Nazir Stackhouse, on Texas' first 3 drives was just obliterating their offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the stats may not show it, but he was the reason that Texas could not drive the ball very much in their first few drives.
Oh, yeah. And then the rest of the game, too, again, another guy that's not going to show up as much on the stat sheet as you'd expect, but Jalen Walker was also just obliterating that offensive line, Exodia style, for a lot of the night, too. Again, they were both kind of playing the Jordan Davis role. We're going to take care of this whole line so other people can go make plays. But they both definitely needed a mention here for that reason, because they were a big part of the defense being what they were.
And then Savannah's own, like Warren Brinson too,
Warren
man. Warren was again, dog.
We need this every game the rest of the season. Inject it straight into my veins.
And then after the game, the clip that started going out, Warren Brinson carrying the SEC trophy by himself, which you guys aren't aware, the SEC
it's
trophy.
Heavy.
It's like 150 pounds. I know for a guy of his size and his strength, 150 pounds isn't a lot. Carrying it one-armed on his shoulder while doing horns down to the camera with the other smoking a cigar.
Hell yeah.
All-time moment.
Love it.
Guys being dudes.
Moment. Yeah. All right, and this week's.
Mr. Walker went 16 yards. He drove right over Orange Church, just driving and running with those big thighs. My God, a freshman.
Player of the game is Nate Frazier himself, Nate the Great. While he only had 6 carries for 47 yards and 1 reception for 9 yards, he got none of those yards. Not a single one of those was easy. He was getting hit at or behind the line of scrimmage every time and somehow finding a way through it to get yards. And he's freshman. Love
insane
that.
I just want him to be able to hold on to the ball a little bit better.
Yeah.
Stop making me nervous.
Well, you know who had some fumble problems his first season though? One Tautathis Gurley.
Yeah.
People don't remember that now though.
You know who had a fumble in the Rose Bowl and then came back and won it?
Sony, yeah.
He had some issues with that too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Lumberjack Ward, Gunnar Stockton, and in this game, obviously we got to give him the Lumberjack Award.
Even if he was only in for the one quarterback draw there at the end where he got his head taken off, he probably would have won this award.
Absolutely.
Yes. No, I agree with that 100%. And the fact that he tried to not leave the field after that, it was like, big dog, we saw your face. They slowed it down once
you were out.
Came off.
Your soul left your body.
And then when you stood up, you couldn't really stand. Like, we love the fight.
Yes.
But please, so you don't Tua yourself, go sit down for a minute.
Yeah.
But Lumberjack Award, I feel, is really fitting here because as a guy that has stayed at Georgia, as a guy that has fought, as a guy that is redshirted, you can tell he did not take any day for granted. Mm-hmm. He came to practice every day, chopping wood, making sure that should he get called on, he could answer the call. And he did.
Yeah. Wasn't perfect. Didn't need to be. He was motivated and tough and just a dog.
Yeah. And that that first drive in the second half that he came in was that spark that they desperately needed that they didn't have at all in the first half. So even just there, huge.
And while we're talking about Gunner being a young guy and having that freshman moment, for lack of a better term, with that interception, he also had a senior moment when he was rolling out of the pocket to his right, knew he was going to get lit up and not get the first down if he made the run. So he just zips it to Lawson Lucky, who made
What a catch.
An incredible catch.
A catch
Brock-esque.
of the year candidate.
I thought the senior moment was when he forgot where he was after that hit, but I guess that's a different kind of senior.
I'm way too familiar with that.
All right. Do y'all have anything else on the SEC title game before we get to some playoff talk?
Just horns down, man.
Horns down.
If you how compared to the other SEC championships that Georgia has under Kirby, where does this rank in terms of just sweetness?
That's a good question. I definitely put it above the LSU one. It was nice to win one after not winning it the year before.
Yeah.
Auburn, I don't know.
That was sweet to me, man. That was your first time, man.
First time getting to the playoff because as a result of that,
and then beating Auburn, just beating Auburn after they whooped your ass.
Yeah, beat the dog crap out of us. Some might say.
Yeah.
Some would.
I do want to add too. Go ahead though.
For me, I think this is a 1B with Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair one.
It's not far enough below that it's a solid 2. But I would say it's a 1B, and that's just because of what Auburn did 2 weeks before on the Plains. And in this one, once again, everybody doubted Georgia, except Pat McAfee, who
learned.
Classic.
I have one last bullet before we get.
I did see the secret bullet that it looked like you never got to.
Yep. I am glad we had to talk about game day for me to remember that. All right. If y'all have anything else,
Yeah, if I can throw one more thing in real quick, I just wanted to add to my monologue about things being hard last week.
Whoa.
It's hard.
Yeah.
To go into your biggest game of the season, be on your backup quarterback, and get in there and get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Kirby Smart likes it hard. Pass it along. Pause.
All right. So last note on the SEC championship game, Reese Davis opened up the game picks for this on game day with one of the best lines ever spoken on game day. I hated it. It pissed me off. But as someone who's been doing this for a few years now, I wish I had written it. Honestly, it was perfect for the moment. And if you're not familiar with it, he said, "Who's that coming down the track? A burnt orange team looking for payback."
Oh,
it was lit.
Oh,
as far as covering sports goes, beautiful.
Yeah,
I hated it.
Hated it in the moment, but now that we won,
I have a correction for that though.
Oh,
who's that coming down the track? A burnt orange team that is still not back.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Beautiful.
And with that, we're going to get into some playoff talk. I probably went a little too hard here. But we're going to go through the seeding real quick, and I did it in a way that makes sense to me. But if it sounds confusing, please stop me. Number 1, we have Oregon getting a bye. 1 through 4 get byes, so I'm not going to say that for everyone. 2, Georgia. 3, Boise State. 4, Arizona State. In the first round, we have number 12, Clemson, at number 5, and these are seeding numbers, not ranking numbers, because the committee...
The rankings don't matter anymore. Why did they even separate the two?
It's stupid.
I have no idea. But at the 5 seed, the team that their record is 11 and Georgia, Texas. Number 11, SMU at 6, Penn State. Number 10, Indiana at number 7, Notre Dame.
Exactly what I was hoping
Tennessee at Ohio State.
Hmm.
Honestly, bias aside, I don't know if with the 8 teams that are playing in the first round, I don't know if we could have gotten better first round matchups.
Oh no,
Yeah, he's gonna be good.
we got the perfect draw. My biggest fear was that they were gonna push like an Ohio State up into 7 or a Texas down into 7, which I mean we'll kick Texas' ass again. I don't care, but the draw could not have been more perfect for sure.
Well, and then Indiana and Notre Dame are playing that Friday night, that first playoff game. So that's going to be nice to get an extra day of prep for whoever wins that game.
Yeah.
Probably Notre Dame, but we have plenty of time to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oregon, meanwhile, probably has the toughest path to the playoff, other than Ohio State and Tennessee.
Yeah.
But I think our whole half of the bracket looks real nice for me, y'all. I don't know about y'all.
I
But
agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
But the big question going into today was SMU or Alabama for the 11 spot. I do find it interesting, and I understand that the 12 seed was supposed to be for the 5th conference champion, but it would have made a lot more sense had they just said the 5th conference champion is going to be somewhere in the first round. They are going to be ranked where they are.
That's what they said, right?
And then SMU's over Clemson when SMU lost to Clemson 12 hours ago.
Yeah, they could have easily just been, okay, Clemson's the 11th seed, SMU's the 12th seed. How hard would that have been?
Apparently too hard, and they don't like it hard, unlike Kirby.
Facts.
But I will say the committee gave the answer that no one expected. They actually didn't punish a team for playing in an extra game, which, as of 7 days ago, they essentially said they were going to.
Yeah. Tip of the cap to them for doing the right thing. Again, when it looked for all the world like they wouldn't.
Yeah. But to be fair to the committee, we just talked about that game, and SMU looked like the better team in the second half of that. They should have won that game. Had they stopped Clemson's wide receiver 2 yards earlier, that game goes in overtime.
Yep.
But Clemson found a way to make the longest field goal in the history of the ACC title game and won.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, it is what it is. But I do have some initial thoughts on the first round. Most of these are a sentence or two, so fairly quick. Clemson and Texas should be a good game because of the explosive nature of Clemson's offense. For the Texas side of it, Quinn Ewers should be healthy by that time to have some of his mobility back, at least until Sammy Brown reminds him what it's like to get hit by a linebacker from Georgia.
Heck yeah. It's Texas, obviously being the 5 seed. What was their best win? I mean, it was probably A&M. Are we sure that A&M is better than Clemson? I don't know.
According to the rankings, they're not. So
right, but I don't know, man. I think everyone's gonna write off Clemson in this, but
I ain't writing Clemson off at all. But we'll get to picks once it's time. But I'm certainly not writing them off.
Yeah, a lot will change, I'm sure.
All right. Next game, SMU and Penn State. I think it's really interesting because SMU, in my opinion, the much better team.
Yeah,
they
I
are
have to
a more
agree.
consistent team. They turn the ball over less. They actually have explosive passing and running games. They have a good defense. We just talked about it by the fact that Clemson could not move the ball on SMU outside of turnovers.
Yeah.
But SMU has turnover issues. We saw that in the game yesterday. Penn State can take advantage and not have their own turnovers. They could actually win this game, and I think SMU is one of the few teams that will be impacted by the road environment. Being an ACC team now and then being Group of 5 previously, they probably have not played in an environment like a night game in Happy Valley.
And it's going to be crazy with this playoff atmosphere. Probably a whiteout, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's not going to be at noon. Can't fuck
Fox
that
is
up.
going to try and put it at noon.
Yeah, let me see. They did announce the times. I'm trying to see which game ended up being because one of them was at noon. It was that one. It's SMU Penn State is a big nooner.
Hell yeah.
On TNT.
Let's go.
The fact that it's TNT, I want Shaq and Charles to commentate a game.
I love that.
Just those two.
Yeah. All right. Well, you see here, I'm not gonna do the impression. I'm gonna get canceled.
I mean, they're both SEC guys. They know football.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be cold too, so SMU has to deal with another cold game. So that sucks.
Indiana at Notre Dame. While we're talking about guys that adjacently know football, And honestly, this game's probably going to be rough for the Hoosiers. Notre Dame may have an offense that is just fresh off of the Great War. If you don't understand history, that is World War One reference. But they do have a really good defense.
Honestly, Indiana's defense isn't that far ahead of them.
I would agree, but Notre Dame has phenomenal defense. But what is their offense going to be able to do? Because if they can run the ball, cool. But it took a while for Ohio State to get going in that game. And if we're being honest, Indiana doesn't have to worry about the pass.
Yeah.
So should be interesting, but I think Notre Dame's defense ends up getting that done. We'll definitely dive into that later.
And the good news, if you're Notre Dame, is that all you have to do, if you can beat Indiana, you just have to, go through a team you've never beaten in your program's history before.
There you go. Tennessee at Ohio State. I'm
so excited for this.
Yeah, this is the best game. Best first round game.
Should be wild. Ryan Day, 0-3 against the SEC in bowl games. While this isn't technically a bowl game, it is a postseason game. So, Ryan Day actually has a worse record against the SEC than he does against Michigan because he's at least beaten Michigan once.
That's true.
It's tough.
It was in a Mickey Mouse season, but he has.
No, 2020 was canceled. It was like 2019.
Oh, it was 19. Okay, my bad.
I will say with this game, if Nico does what he has done on the road all season, it's going to be rough. But at the same time, I think it's a fairly easy argument to say that Tennessee is going to be the best defense Ohio State has played all season, and their offense has struggled at times.
That's true.
I would say the closest defense to this Tennessee defense would be Michigan.
Yeah. Guys, take the under. I don't care what it is. Take the under.
Unless Nico just gets a year's worth of development in 3 weeks and comes out passing for 500 like they're playing Kent State again or Akron.
No.
I got
both Ohio teams, funny enough.
Yeah. I got two things about this.
All right.
One, both of these fan bases are, obviously like the worst. It depends on, who you talk to, but like they're the worst. They're the worst.
Objectively.
Yeah, that's not even an argument.
Yeah, I mean, and could they become friends and, after they realize how shitty they are, together and, all
Sounds
that.
like the worst Hallmark movie ever.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. They're going to hate each other. Tennessee is going to find a hatred for Ohio State more than they hate Georgia and Alabama.
I already have Ohio fans messaging me about how much they hate Tennessee. So,
it's just the meme of us just watching them just beat each other up, just laying on the lawn.
Yeah, this is a meteor game for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And second, regardless of the outcome of this game, it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah. Agreed.
Whatever it is, Tennessee
watching the opposing fans, it's just going to be.
Yeah, Tennessee losing in the first round, just funny. They're not back again, and then Ohio State losing.
On third day space, Ryan Day.
Yeah, he's gone, and they try to get Marcus Freeman, I'm sure. But
how hilarious would it be if we get to a situation where in the quarterfinal round there's not a single team with orange?
Well, Boise State has orange, so that's not entirely possible. But
man, but I was going to
be funny.
Clemson wins. Arizona State beats Clemson.
Oh, okay, so you're saying semifinals?
Semifinals. Okay.
Semifinals. It's doable. It's doable. Arizona State beats whoever gets there. Ohio State or Oregon beats Tennessee. Somebody beats Boise State. That's not that hard.
Second round of the playoffs. Oregon plays the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee in the Rose Bowl. If Tennessee makes it, it'll be their first Rose Bowl appearance since 1945.
Okay.
Just an interesting fact. I went back and looked that up. Georgia will play the winner of Indiana and Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. If Indiana wins, it'll be the first matchup between the two programs ever. And if Notre Dame wins, it'll obviously be their first matchup since that 2019 game in Athens.
I think these two teams, Notre Dame and Georgia, have played in the Sugar Bowl before. Did anything significant happen that season?
I think Herschel Walker won Heisman.
Well,
not
No,
that
it was the next year.
season.
It was the next year.
It was 2 years later.
Dude, God, dude, time.
I believe that was another natty season.
That
if
was
I'm not
another
mistaken.
national championship. Yes.
Oh, that's what happened. Sugar falling from the sky. Wow.
I don't think that was the call. That was that game either.
Georgia's been to too many Sugar Bowls. I can't remember this.
I actually think Sugar falling from the sky was a game where they beat Auburn and clinched a spot in the Sugar Bowl.
No, you're right. You're right.
But that's
I can guarantee you I'm still going to use that audio for that episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You should. There's been too many great months and moments to keep them all in order. It's all good.
Time's not real. Boise State will play the winner of SMU and Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl, throwback to that 06 Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma. I think Boise has the leg up on either of those teams with the way they played against UNLV. Just gonna throw that out there. Also, there'll be a lot of blue in that game. Kind of going to be weird to look at. Arizona State will play the winner of Texas and Clemson in the Peach Bowl. Wish Georgia got the Peach Bowl, but that's beside the point. And with how both of those teams struggled against strong running attacks, I think that will actually be a good game.
Yeah. Give me the fighting Kenny Dillingham's, whoever it is, baby. I'm going to go ahead and spoil it.
And with the potential second round matchups, I think Georgia has the easiest path to the third round and potentially beyond.
I was going to say, I think they've got the easiest path to the final in the entire playoff field.
I really do think the Texas-Clemson winner probably has the second easiest, but that's not calling it easy by any stretch of the imagination. Do you guys have any more notes about anything?
No, I just got to say, I sort of briefly mentioned it earlier, but it's really interesting, like the way this playoff has shaped out. You almost don't want the 1 seed because these 8 and 9 seeds are going to be teams that were very close to winning very powerful conferences, and now you've got a situation where Oregon has to play Tennessee or Ohio State, which is objectively probably the 2 hardest choices of the quarterfinal game. So it's sad for Oregon, but you know what? They've won every game so far, so they can handle a tough game. Whereas like Georgia, for example, has already had the toughest schedule in the entire nation. They've earned a little bit of an easy path.
Well, and then Oregon's going to play out on the West Coast anyway, so they have that benefit playing.
Yeah, that's true.
Fairly close to them, but they got to do something about the seeding next year. I'm sure they're going to talk about that as soon as this playoff's over, because that's silly that Oregon gets punished.
Just split the 12 teams in order. Like if you want to put conference championships in, great, but just put the 12 teams in order.
Yeah,
12 teams in order, and after the first round, the 1 seed plays the lowest seed. The 2 seed plays the second lowest. It should be reseeded. That
makes too much sense, but this is college football. Why would we do that?
Why would we do something that makes sense here?
Yeah.
All right, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. We are working on talking to somebody later this week for the Army-Navy game. Reached out to my friend that played at Army again. He said he promises me next season he is going to pay attention to both teams and actually come on the show. So pressured him into finally doing it. And then, I am probably going to have no social life over the next few weeks because I'm going to work my ass off to get an interview for at least 1 team in each of the first round games.
Ooh.
Some of them are probably going to be like next Monday night. So information may not be 100% relevant, but we're going to try and get those out because we did it last year and kind of pushed ourselves into a corner, and now there's 12 teams.
12 teams.
Yeah.
Oof.
It was fun though.
It was. We had a ton of fun. Made some new contacts last year. But as always, follow us on social media at nothing.finerpod on Instagram, at finerpod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up. You will find us there. Horns down. And as always, remember, there's nothing finer in the land
than drunken
obnoxious horns down.